Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Sherry Sims, and welcome to our Lunch Hour Career Tip Tuesday. And I am your host, Sherry Sims, founder of Black Rooms Network. And we have Makita Matthews, our Chief Network Officer. And every other Tuesday, we come to you with a career tip that you can use that can really help you to provide you some success in your career. And I think we are actually live via LinkedIn as well. I think today this is the first time we are going via live from LinkedIn with our Career Tip Tuesdays. So if you don't know about our mobile app, please download our mobile app. We'll give you some more details about that at the end of our Career Tip Tuesday. But let's jump right in. And today for Career Tip Tuesday, we're going to be talking about egos at work, how to identify and communicate egotistical colleagues. And I know we all know what they are, so we cannot stand them. We know who they are because absolutely cannot stand them.
No, we cannot. We cannot. But there are ways to navigate the workplace.
There are ways to navigate. Absolutely. So we're going to talk about how to identify egos at work, and we have the most common egotistical behaviors. And that's what we're going to talk about really quickly, and then we're going to provide you with some tips on how to deal with these egotistical behaviors at work. If you do have questions, because I do see that we have we have a ton of people on from LinkedIn. Yeah. Hello, everyone.
Hi, LinkedIn family.
I know, right? We should say names, but we try to do these in a 20-minute and keep it really quick and fast because we know everyone is really busy through time. But if you do have some questions, feel free to put them in the comment box and we'll be more than happy to answer those. But we're going to go ahead and jump right into the seven ways to identify egos at work. And the first one we're going to talk about is wanting or demanding credit for every idea.
Right.
I cannot stand this.
No. But we know it happens. Gosh, I want to ask why. Why does this happen? Why do you think that they just want credit for every single idea?
That's a good question. And if anyone has a comment in our from LinkedIn, please share that with us. Why do you feel like they want or demand credit for every idea? Because to me, it's almost as if they want to bully themselves into a certain role, or maybe have certain visibility, or do certain things to get promoted. And then maybe they sometimes just flat out have self-esteem issues. Now, as Joe Madison said, entitlement.
Entitlement. That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Entitlement is a really good one.
Yes, I know. And it's just, and how many have had someone actually take credit for their work? I've had it done right in my face, and I had to use emotional intelligence and step back and breathe and then come back to them later. And then really just say, hey, and let them know I was aware of what you did. And of course, I had to make sure I let my manager know, because sometimes you got to CYA when you're playing these corporate games. Right. So I had to let them know I was going to have a conversation with this person about taking credit for my work. So Simone says this is one of the frustrating things. They want credit but don't want to do the work. Absolutely.
That's a good one.
It's a good one.
Simone
Absolutely.
Says they want to be seen. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, why want to be seen? This is not a television show. Why do you want to be seen? And then there's ways that you can gain visibility the right way, right? We talk about this a lot. There are strategic ways that you can gain visibility in a positive way, which is important. Yeah. Constance says, always, but I speak up about it. And then Ebony says, my manager was one who did it. Mm-hmm. Now, it's bad when it's your own boss. It's like, now how do you confront that? You know what I mean? When it's your boss is taking your ideas. That's a good one.
Yeah. And I think that that's a really good segue into number 2, which is using I and me instead of we and us. Because if you're on a team, your boss should be able to give you your credit, right? And say we, even if he or she may not came up with it, but definitely in support. But using I and me is definitely a way to hijack an idea, and clearly you're seeing some egotistical behavior or dealing with an egotistical person that's always saying me.
Yeah, I agree with that. Is because here's the thing: you have to have a strong sense of self, and also have some self awareness about who you are. And if you know you're someone that says we a lot because you are naturally a team builder or a team player, I mean, you see they're saying, and you notice that they're saying I a lot, you should be catching on to that. Because I always tell, you always be, and McKee and I talk about this all the time. You pay attention to the people that you work with. You have to observe their behaviors, your environment, and your culture because it can shift and change at any time. And so when you're picking up on these things early on or paying attention to these things, then again, it gives you an opportunity to also adjust how you approach and behave and communicate with them as well. I like one of our LinkedIn users is a female engineer. This has been happening to her since college, and men taking credit for her work. And that's going to be frustrating. Absolutely frustrating a lot.
Very frustrating.
Yeah. And then I see another one says entitlement, a micromanager that wants to be in control of all content. Yeah. Not good stuff at all.
Not good. Very frustrating.
All right, so let's go to the next one, Makita. And I think we said talking about dominating conversations in meetings.
Yes. This is another frustrating one, but in this sense, somebody that is trying to always dominate the conversation and dominate the meetings, I always wonder if they are doing it sort of as a threat or just a scare tactic. So you're not really getting to their work or their abilities, but just kind of projecting, please. Not even please, don't talk to me, don't do it. I'm just going to dominate. And so, utilizing that as a scare tactic, but definitely somebody that you're dealing with that has a big ego, overly confident, they will definitely try to dominate the conversation in the meeting.
Yeah, and how do you overcome that? Someone who's an introvert, or maybe you don't talk a lot in the meetings, or you add value, of course, but you're just not very vocal when you're in these meetings. It's like, how do you deal with someone like that? And this is where you have to challenge and push yourself to become a little bit more assertive when it comes to recognizing these behaviors and then adjusting your work style personality accordingly. So Avanya says, I'm very guilty for wanting to be acknowledged for the work since my manager will always hide that my work has succeeded and that it has been implemented. Oh no, we can have that. That's out. We cannot have that. You have got to find a way to make sure that you are, visibility is important in the right ways. But of course, the Dr. Cassandra said it right. It's both scare tactic and insecurity, but you still have to find a way to navigate to get that, to make sure that you're getting full credit and visibility for that work. And Kitty, you want to say something?
Yeah, I think one of the potential low-hanging fruit ways to combat that is to I always like meeting notes and agendas and assigning people to the specific items on the agenda. And so if you're that person and you are dealing with a dominating person, maybe take a hold of the meeting agenda and specify how much time this person is going to have and what they're going to talk about, and then what you are going to talk about and how much time you have. This way there's no way that just one person can dominate the meeting, and you can always try to get back to, hey, you know what, we need to stay on task, on time, and at the agenda. So that's one of the ways is to sort of combat one person dominating, have an agenda, stick to it, and facilitate.
No, I like that. And let's move on to number 4, which is reminding others of their superiority or excellence, real or perceived. Okay. Woo. Okay. Now, you talk about sister girl holding that sister girl back. This right here, don't even try. Don't even try. This is where you got to now make it known who you are and how you showing, who you really are and how you showing up. And maybe, if you're someone who's a little bit more poised in the workplace and, but you got a little bit more of that edge to you that you kind of pull back in the workplace, this might be the time to bring that out for something like this. But again, I think when you are having someone who feels like they have to remind others of their superiority and excellence, again, it is, I think, all about insecurity and tactic, just like what Dr. Cassandra said. It is about both scare tactic and insecurity when you have someone who shows up in that space like that. I just think it's unreal.
Yeah.
And how dare you, really? Because
Yeah.
if we're both colleagues or we're both peers and we're on the same level, we all have unique strengths and gifts that we bring to the table, and it makes us still equally talented because our strengths and gifts can play off each other in the right way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So Valencia says, Lynn Houston, yes, I have always has ideas for my department, but never wants to contribute to the logistics and implementation. I'll tell you what, that's
Mm-hmm.
not cool at all. Not
No,
cool at all.
not at all. Not at all.
Now, I like what Joe says. She says, gain exposure and visibility through sending emails of your work or idea to your manager or appropriate people. I like that too.
I do too. Yeah, kind of get some buy-in, go and ask for feedback, right? But you're also sharing the idea so that somebody can't just take a hold of it because other people have heard it before and they know it came from you. I like that, Joe.
Now, Antoinette asked, will there be a recording of the session for later reference? Antoinette, yes, it will be, but you will need to download our app to gain access to our library of career tip Tuesdays. We'll provide, and you can download our app from Apple or Google Play, and that's where you'll be able to find the replay for this. We have a link users that says off topic, but I would love if you could answer this for me. Why does Black women have to provide proof or explain their credentials as if they're aligned? For example, education, work experience, etc.
Great question.
Great question. I think McKee and I are both going to answer this, but I'm going to say this. What a lot of people have to, when you understand, is that the people that companies hire are the ones who really help to establish what type of brand and reputation they have. And when you hire people with specific mentalities and certain types of personality traits, i.e., people who are biased, who maybe also are semi-racist, all those types of things, they have certain perceptions and stereotypes of who they think Black women are. Those things are going to show up in their behavior, their perception of you, and how they treat you subconsciously because of the bias they have. So it's so true. And I think Joe said it right. Corporate culture mindset. Again, it goes back to the mentality of that specific person. Each individual brings something different to their roles. But if you're dealing with someone who has bias, you have to be the one. Again, I always say, observe and pay attention to the people that you work with. And you can pick up on that really quickly. And then you can say, yeah, I can see you got a little bit of bias or stereotype going on while we're dealing with this. And then what you should do is be able to call that out in a way that helps them to see that their behavior is unfair. Now, again, this goes back to how egotistical they could possibly be. Because if they're egotistical, they're not going to accept accountability for that. But if it's someone who truly wants to change, then maybe you strategically align them with, if you have a D&I person who does coaching, or bringing in someone that can help to create this awareness around the treatment and behavior. Again, be careful going to your HR team, because you need to make sure your HR team is either they could be pro-employer or pro-employee.
Yes.
So you have to be strategic about that.
Yes, you're going to have to know which one your HR partner is before you go to them.
Yeah, you have to know about that. And Constance says, how are you able to do that without being labeled as the angry Black woman? You have to do it in a way that says, hey, I just want to say I've observed some things about your behavior that makes me feel uncomfortable. And this is what I'm observing. And this is why. Be very straight and clear about that. And you can do that in a way that is professional and respectful. And then it doesn't have to make someone feel away. If they do feel away, that's their personal problem, not yours. But you also have another level of problem you have to deal with. So again, you have to be careful about how how you address it, but then do not be in denial about how they're going to respond.
Yes, I always like to flip and ask questions. Like, can you help me understand what you meant by this? What are you, what are you saying? What was your intent behind this? Really kind of flip it back on them, and people aren't stupid. And they're going to give themselves up eventually, or their intent is going to come out. So I always like to ask them questions, flip it back on them.
And I like what Constance says here. She says, Gloria D, I also have a great reputation and strong relationships with leaders. So they know my level of work. I'm also very professional. Absolutely. And here's the thing. You can be professional all day long. You can have a great reputation and strong relationships. But if you're still dealing with someone whose character is not on the same moral compass as yours, or maybe even following the values of the organization or in equal with yours, you still have to pay attention to that, because they can be sneaky on the slide and be sabotaging you up under the table. And if you don't have the right relationships with people who can come to you and say, hey, so and so saying this about you in these rooms, that can be an issue.
Yeah, sure can.
So I think that's great. So yeah, and Gloria, love the question. Absolutely, make them respond. Make them respond. And the whole goal is to say, hey, I just observed this behavior from you. What I just heard from you just makes me feel uncomfortable, and just calling them out, just calling it out, which is sometimes what we don't do enough of, and doing it directly. Sometimes we're quick to run to HR or something like that, but sometimes we have our own power to where we can neutralize some of these things that happen to us, in real time. And Joe says, open-ended and probing questions always flips it back to them and outs the ball back in HR's court. Document. Okay, I can't tell you enough. Documentation is a Black girl's best friend in the workplace. That's so true. All right, well, we still got a couple more of these we want to get through, you guys. I know this has been a great conversation, but I think we're on number 5. Are we on number 5? Nikita?
Yes. We are. Stopping others from expressing their ideas. This is, again, another scare tactic. This is what this is. And my personal experience with this has been, people may want to stop you from expressing your ideas, as it could potentially expose their weakness. And that's not something that an egotistical person or overly confident person necessarily wants. But also, they like the credit. So why would you want others to express their ideas when somebody else, kind of just wants all the. I think we just lost Sherry. Let me get her back here. There we go. Yes. Okay.
I'm back. I don't know what happened. I'm just glad to be here. Okay.
No, yeah. Let's see here. I think, Dr. Cassandra, you said fear will paralyze you and they hate when you document. Yes, they do. They absolutely do. All right. We've got a couple more minutes left. Let's head to number 6.
All right, so number 6, what is number 6? I can't even find
rewarding those who support them.
Oh, yes.
Punishing those who don't.
All right, I have seen this happen a lot with leaders who do this, where they support the team members, or they reward them and support them, and punish the others who don't. And I've seen it a lot. Anyone else? I typically see this a lot with leaders.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So I it's like, how do you? It's such a fine line with your boss doing this. You can have the power to confront. You can have the power to have these conversations, and maybe it's your one-on-one, and say, hey, I've really been experiencing some things from you that have been making me feel uncomfortable or not empowered or what have you, and then being able to discuss that. And again, it goes back to paying attention to how they respond, and all these things. But you just can't. Same thing when it's a colleague or a peer. You can. It's different. The direct approach is great for anyone, but you do have to be strategic when it comes to your manager or your your supervisor, director, whomever you're reporting to, but you still have to speak up and stand up for yourself.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sherry.
Yeah.
Ebony says her previous manager was that way. Yes. Yep. We often, like Sherry said, do see it from managers and higher ups.
Yeah. And you'll know it. You'll see it. And always know what you see be comfortable with that. This is not like, oh, this is all in my head. Am I just seeing this? No. There's something happening here, and you have every right to be able to continue to explore and understand what's going on. All right, and the seventh one is bullying or trying to exert power they don't really have.
Workplace bullying, trying to exert power that they don't really have. Wow, like, again, it happens all the time. And one of the ways to, stop this from happening, or at least kind of outs them, document whatever this person is trying to do to you, trying to get you to do, rather document it, send a follow-up. Hey, Jimmy just came by my desk trying to get me to do this. I just want to confirm that this is the correct thing to do, right? So again, document and actually go to the person that this task or whatever may actually or should be coming from.
Yeah, and I think it's really one of those things where in my mind, when I see that, I start laughing because I'm like, you really are just kind of disillusioned about who you are and your position, your place in this role. I'm like, don't have several seats, because at the end of the day, we're all here because we're trying to make sure we're using our gifts and talents, but we're also trying to make sure that we are, we have goals we have to achieve, whether it's outside of work or in work, whether it's a career level we're trying to achieve, but we still have to meet the company's initiatives and whatever goals they have. It's our job to help them to accomplish those too. So again, it's like that power move, but for nothing. Stop trying to gun for the title and the power when you really don't have the goods to get there.
Absolutely.
I like that. Pauline says, my former employer says he was being loyal when I called him out on giving credit to someone who was incompetent. Yeah. And Doria says, managers are some of the biggest bullies, and HR usually supports them so they are able to get away with it. Yes.
Yeah.
This could not be a much truer statement. And again, it goes back to why I said, before you just run HR, okay? And I'm saying this is somebody who has worked in HR for over 2.5 decades. You have to make sure you need to be clear about it if your HR team is pro-employee or pro-employee before you go running. Because there's other ways to empower yourself and to resolve any challenges you may have in the workplace without necessarily getting them involved. And if you know what those are, and you understanding who the allies are in your area too, it empowers you so much more to do that. And sometimes you just gotta let people know you can't be played with, and you can do that in a way that it's just when you have opportunities to clearly state who you are and what you represent. Some people know not to cross those lines with you, so you have to, again, which is one of the things I think we were going to talk about, was to talk about the boundaries. Valentia says, I've been told to document everything since before I started working. Best advice. Yeah, we can go back to say it again, right, Makita? That's documentation is what? Black woman's best friend in the workplace.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
So we have a LinkedIn user that says, in my experience, I've only been able to rise as high as the level of consciousness of my one-up. In cases where my manager is ridiculous, then I would make a point to do one-on-ones or special projects with him or her to gain visibility. That's smart. And change his or her perspective. That, along with dressing to the nines, has gotten me a huge pay raise and promotions. Yeah, and I know people don't understand that, but the image piece for us, we do have to show with a certain image, physical appearance. I know some people probably would disagree with that. Now, the more that your likability and your credibility and relationships, as you establish those, they become less and less in terms of that appearance. But if you're still trying to, get to that place to where you are on that career trajectory of where you want to go, you definitely have to consider that. So thank you for that tip, because that is true, for sure. Because the perception is going to always be there. Lynn Houston says yes. All right. So I know that we only had a couple of minutes left, but couple of strategies for communication with ego, strategies for communication with egos at work. So Makita, talk about that first one.
Don't let them draw you in. I mean, don't get emotional about it. And I know it's very hard, but get emotional about it, it's just going to draw you in longer and longer and longer and longer. Be practical, have confidence in yourself. And again, do the work that you need to do to make sure that this stops, which is most of the time documenting.
Yep. Olivia says, hi, Valencia. Talk about it. We've always got to show up looking the part, and that's exhausting. I'm not going to lie. That is exhausting that we always have to show up looking the part, The one thing I won't compromise on is my curly natural hair. Don't even ask me because it's not going anywhere. So, you know what I mean? There's some things we also to not need to compromise on those things, for sure. Pauline says, I wish I'd met you all regarding documenting everything. This lack of documentation got me in a bind. I was told to go for it. Then my boss denied it. And then when the board asked about the issue. Yeah, you got to start documenting things and always trust your gut, because your gut will tell you when it's time to start writing all the stuff down. So it's important to have that book to start, keeping it close to you. I remember I used to have one at this place I worked, and I would leave the book at work. Probably one of the stupidest things I could have done. Oh, we lost Makita. Okay, she should be back though. So again, document everything. Hugely important. Joe says we should always keep a laser focus in corporate. They will always poke holes in our emotional state of mind if we let them. Yes, if we let them. You have to really be, once you get hip to the games, in the workplace, you kind of show up differently, and your body language and how you communicate and how you come across, even though you know that you get along with everyone, absolutely, they'll know that you're not one to be played with, so again, yes, Lynn, right, your gut is right. The big curly hair, not going anywhere. Okay, we're not playing with those. We're not playing those games. All right, now the next one, and I think Makita should be back. We're going to keep going because I know we want to wrap things up. But again, you want to establish boundaries, right? Which is what I was just talking about. However you want to do that, whether you have to verbally establish those boundaries or if your body language or how you communicate lets them know, to be clear about who you are and how you're showing up. But establish those boundaries with the person with ego, and let them know how you want to be treated, how you want to be communicated to, how you want to be spoken to if you have to go that far. But the more you're able to establish those boundaries, the better. And then you want to know your threshold and your deal breakers, right? We all have it, right? We always talk about this at BCWN. We always talk about, we want to know what are your, oh, hell no's, okay? Well, oh, hell no, we're not doing this. So you want to know your threshold. You want to know what your deal breakers are and recognize those things. Because if that person with the ego starts to cross that threshold in terms of deal breakers, or maybe you just had enough of their behavior, you have to know strategically how to confront and address them and be clear about who you are and what you want. And that means speaking up for yourself. And there's nothing more empowering in being able to do that. Now, go in and speak up for yourself. Do not expect, for a certain expectation, but you also have to observe their behavior, because if they start to retaliate against you or sabotage you or anything like that, then you need to also, now there's another recourse of action you'll have to take. And then if you have to, change your work environment. Change your work environment if you have to, simply because, and that means if you like, okay, I can't take this no more. I do not condone anybody having to leave their job behind someone. However, if you feel like you've done all you can do and nothing's changing, you either change your work environment or change your job, if that is a possibility. And then you want to focus on your goals. You want to focus on your goals, making sure you're still achieving what you want to achieve is going to elevate you to the next level. And a lot of times when we're dealing with people with ladies, egotistical behaviors, it's all of it, could be practiced and challenged for the next level. Because I always say, new levels, new devils. So when you each level comes with more complexity, more egos, all of these things. And if you are not prepared to deal with those egos at the level that you are in, then guess what? You're gonna end up repeating the same mistakes, because you have to learn those lessons on how to deal with those people. Yes, when you show up, you always show up as a team player. Always show up as a team player, which means that you should also keep focus on the team goals and your goals as well, when it comes to that. So Constance says, kill them with a smile, positive attitude, so they can't draw you into the drama and they want to break or quit. Absolutely. Keep that communication tight, because again, you can do things to let them know that you're not one that they can come to with all the rigmarole, all the drama. I love Joe. Joe is on it today, girl. Love her good conversation with you. She said, must keep in mind the corporate culture fit is important. Absolutely. And you have to do as much research as you can about to see if it's a corporate fit for you prior to. But then here's the thing too. Corporate cultures can change. You can get comfortable in being in your job for you're like, oh, I've been here for 5 years and everything's been great. But you know what? Corporate cultures can change. So you still have to keep your eye and pay attention to a corporate culture, because it can change and shift. And there's other reasons, there's other dynamics that come into play as to why that can happen. Again, these are all excellent tools. Boundaries, advocating, changing the environment. You can only do so much. In my personal experience, documentation takes so much of my time. It ends up exhausting me. So I pivot and focus on what I need to do a job. Yep, and, to each his own, which is great. Just remember that trust your gut, because if it's a time where you feel like you haven't started documenting or something gets a little bit serious, then you got to have that. But again, to each his own, which is great. Wilhelmina says, how do you deal with the boss who always points out your mistakes and not not the value you bring to the team? Well, again, that is a personality issue with your boss, right? So that boss may not be the best fit for you. We all have work environments, bosses, and specific tasks in our jobs that really are things that can help us thrive and be successful. And we all have certain things that help us with that. That may not be the right boss, but then again, if you are comfortable with having that conversation, you can. But what you need to do is see if it's just you or if they do everyone on the team that way. So if they're pointing out other people's mistakes like you, that's a personality trait. If they're only doing it to you, then they have an issue specifically with you, and then that's when you need to probably have a conversation with them if possible. And do it during your one-on-one and just say, here's my thing. We're all adults. We're all adults, and we should be able to have these adult conversations, these what I consider crucial conversations with our leaders, so we can make sure that we have a relationship that's conducive to the whole goal, which is to making sure that we're meeting the company's objectives and that we're meeting our own in terms of our own career growth and development. So again, I think that's important too. Yes, you have a LinkedIn user that says, William, take it up with them directly, organically, have them show you how to support you. Absolutely. You should always go into understanding your manager's work, your manager's leadership style, but then also you share with them how you want to be managed. Let them know how you want to communicate. Let them know what works for you. And they should be open to meeting you there. And if they're not egotistic, they're going to ego at work, they're not being flexible. But that's important. You have to be clear on how you want to be worked with as well and what's important to you. She said, didn't document and I learned the hard way. All right, you guys, I know we went a little bit over 8 minutes, and that's okay. We want to be respectful of your time, but I'm glad this is our first time doing our Career Tip Tuesday live with LinkedIn and also live in our app. So we do a lot of things with our mobile. We do everything that we engage in. We do it in our mobile app. And again, if you are interested in downloading our mobile app and getting access to this replay, feel free to download our app at Black Career Women's Network. You can download it from Apple Store or Google Play if you want to see the replay of today's Career Tip Tuesday. And then if you want to follow us or check us out, you can go to bcwnetwork.com. I'm going to actually put it in the chat box right now if you want to learn more about who we are and what we do. I'm here, and we have, since 2012, we have been helping hundreds of Black women across the world to elevate their careers and create the change they want to see so they can level up and grow and be successful. So again, we're so glad that you guys tuned in. If you have any comments that you want to share with us, please share them on LinkedIn. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed this conversation. We do it every other week, so we'll be back in 2 weeks. And I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.